Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 211, which is called The Chase. So yeah, this was quite an interesting episode. I think for the preview there was a bit of interest behind it because it's like, okay, Shikadai and his team potentially tracking down Kashin Koji? Okay, let's see where this goes. And it worked out pretty well because I think what worked out well for them overall was that when they were doing the adaptation of the manga a few episodes ago, covering like the Boro fight, they had left out a couple of key sort of Kashin Koji scenes that more kind of clearly gave you an idea about what he's going to do next and stuff like that. So they had a lot of those scenes to sort of almost like compile together to finally reveal the idea of like, oh yeah, here's the guy who's been sort of behind it all, but then you reveal the big sort of like kind of twist here, Amado is working with him, and big moves are about to happen based on the preview for next week's episode, as we are, I think, just about to return to manga content. So the break was only like a few episodes, so not bad at all. So the most significant thing is just that, like, obviously we finished up volume 11 for the most part a few episodes ago in the anime. But finally, this episode is the one that covers the final page of this volume. So, it gives you a sense for, like, they're holding back on a few little things. Because otherwise, the setup for that fight actually was beginning to happen, like, a little bit before. So, that's the way they did it. And then, yeah, this episode also benefited from the fact that they had Kakashi in it. Like, anytime he appears in an episode, it's always kind of cool. So him sort of getting a chance to be the team leader to Shigadai and his team worked out very nicely for the episode. And while in the end, was it anything particularly substantial? Not really until the very end, but it was a nice chase, a nice investigation, as we were like, okay, how close are they going to get to Kashin Koji? And what they did was they more used this episode as a way to sort of, again, bring up a few of the sort of similarities, a few of the teases for like the identity of this character. So once again, he's able to walk around in the village without being detected because his chakra has been registered with the village from before. This episode also makes the point quite clearly that he is realistically a shinobi from before the shinobi were tracked digitally, so the older sort of generation before the last war. That's another clue. The jutsus that he's using, of course, is another clue, and combine that with his visuals, and, I think a lot of people are beginning to probably figure it out. But there's still the massive mystery that surrounds, like, okay, I think I know what the connection you're trying to make me make is, but how? What's going on here? There's a few, like, big questions that just are like, okay, I think I know what you want me to think, but I don't know why this is the case. And that's very interesting with Kashin Koji because, okay, he's been sort of on the Kara side of things, but now the reveal is that Amado and Kashin Koji are working together to also take down Jigen. And Amado is sort of like in control in a way of Jigen's recharging, so he's sort of got him in this position where it's like perfect for Kashin Koji to fight. Like he said, he's only at about 10%. This is the best opportunity we're ever going to have to do this. Are you ready? So everything is kind of being put into position as it looks like Amado's about to try and defect as well. So I suppose this is a case of like, this will be figured out after you attack him, but we still need to, save ourselves here. So a lot of pieces being put into position here, with that final scene being obviously, I think, the main takeaway combined with the preview. But the rest of the episode I thought was pretty good because the main takeaway you'd have is that Kakashi notes how all the members of Shikadai's team, so Shikadai, Inojin, and Chocho, are all developing quite nicely. The next generation is looking pretty good, and it's not just because of Boruto's team. Because we got to see that, Inojin really does have a kind of good eye for sensing some details. He was able to sense Kakashi on the bottom floor while they were up on the in the tower. Chocho and her sort of intuition, using some kind of common detective stuff to realize that that's a good spot to oversee the entire village, and it ended up working out quite well. And then, of course, we know Shikadai as a tactician is very, very strong and is just like his father. So I appreciated them acknowledging that this team is really, really skilled as well. They might not be the highest fighting level as a team, but in terms of a mission like this, a detective type mission, yeah, they're pretty good at that sort of stuff. Um, and again, the whole Kakashi, find the hidden meaning within the hidden meaning, and the constant like, this is the truth. No, wait, this is what he was actually doing. This was just a tease to make them go over here when actually he went here. So the overall flow of the episode was actually quite good. As like, you saw like Shikadai and his team got about 2 or 3 layers deep, but Kakashi got even more layers deep, highlighting his experience. But even so, Kashin Koji still had the edge overall. So a lot of that stuff was just really fun to see, as like Shikadai caught on to the idea of like, I don't think he's trying to just escape the village through the sewers and then come out from the exit outside the village. I think he's going to use the Thunder Train. And then Kakashi figures out that, oh, wait, he's just trying to tease us with all the different exits to the village, when why wouldn't he escape after stealing the data in the first place? It's because he wants even more data, so I'll go there. So a lot of that worked, I think, quite well over the course of the episode to just, create that intrigue, the clever aspects of being a ninja. A lot of Naruto Boruto recently has maybe been a little bit more about the, crazy big powers and just defeat them with raw power. But it was nice to see some of the more tricky aspects of like shadow clones being used actually very effectively to truly trick people. Like on the train where they confront Kashin Koji, Shikadai gets him with the shadow paralysis. It's just a shadow clone, and that was kind of good, just showing that like a sort of a master level shinobi can really use those shadow clones exceptionally well. So again, like we're so used to Naruto doing these like really intricate uses of shadow clones where it's like crazy because of the amount of them, the scope to which he uses them. It was nice to sort of see the more basic application of the shadow clone here. We got a brief glimpse of a Kashin Koji Kakashi fight. Just highlighting that, like, okay, I think they did this pretty well, with Kashin Koji maybe just getting a slight edge with the situation with the toad poison jutsu, and managing to escape that way. But obviously, they weren't going to like properly defeat Kakashi here, but just again have sort of Kakashi up close experience, like, oh, a jutsu that I know someone who's sort of used that one before. Someone skilled enough to sort of go toe to toe with me. There's only so many shinobi that could be. So good use here, but also not like overdoing it in sort of a an off episode before we build up to the return of some big stuff, in that they're setting up directly Jigen versus Kashin Koji. So, let's not destroy the whole budget just doing a relatively unimportant Kashin Koji fight when the big stuff is coming up now. This sequence of arcs coming up, this fight and what that then transitions into, because there's not really going to be much of an opportunity for them to take a break once they sort of get started into that fight, because there's going to be the stuff with that fight, the stuff with Amado, which is really, really important, the stuff that he is going to say to the leaders of the Leaf Village. And then from there, what the fight that happens afterwards is also just as important. So, big stuff happening here, and like you can probably tell from the intro to the show, there's a lot of visuals for stuff that are actually relatively recent to the manga. So that's all like important to kind of keep in mind as well. That yeah, we're going pretty close with the adaptation up to where we are now. I think there's a pretty decent spot to take a longer break, just before the sort of current arc we're on now, the setup stuff that we're doing at the moment. Um, right now in the manga is probably where the anime should take maybe a little bit of a longer break if they want to take one. So there's a bit of a kind of a stopping point for them. But yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much all there is to say about this episode. In the grand scheme of things, it was pretty simple and to the point. But I thought this was probably one of the best, uses of one of these episodes where it didn't feel like, oh, here's just sort of the calm before the storm episode where it's just fun times. Chocho being more of a focus is usually a sign that like an episode is kind of more on the filler end of things. But because we'd been so focused for ages on just plot, doing the manga adaptation, this was actually a nice kind of pleasant break to have a little bit of a lighter episode, but to make it still feel important with some important Kashin Koji information, and then having a major reveal at the end that, oh yeah, Kashin Koji and Amado are working together and their plan is to take down Jigen. That this whole large mystery that's been going on with the villain plot behind the scenes about all this stuff that happened with the airship and so on. We've known that Kashin Koji's been the suspicious one this whole time, but now knowing that Amado's been in on it this whole time, that like he's been the one sort of doing the investigation for Jigen, so that's a little bit of a sort of twist surprise in a way. So that worked really well as the big moment of the episode. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.